In the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. I didn't think I would like Game of Thrones. I didn't think I would like dark, violent, pessimistic stories. And Game of Thrones might not be the most dark, violent, pessimistic story there is, but it's not shy about the fact that the heroes don't always win. And doing the right and honorable thing sometimes has dire consequences. And I still love the story. I'm still surprised that I'm sitting here now going, I love Game of Thrones. Over the last couple years, I've fallen in love with Robin Hobb, and I kept seeing her compared to George R.R. Martin. In my mind, these didn't seem like the same stories, but after reading Game of Thrones, I do see the comparison. There's definitely some differences, but basically Robin Hobb got me into Game of Thrones. I did watch the show before starting the books, and I watched the entire show this year, and then I started reading the first A Song of Ice and Fire book, Game of Thrones. They were both great. I really enjoyed my experience viewing the show, and I'm really excited for the books. I do think having seen the show helped me settle into the first book faster. I already knew these characters. I wasn't trying to figure out who was who or just like overwhelmed with how many characters there were. I don't regret watching the show first because I got to enjoy the show for what it is, and now I can read the books and dive in deeper and learn much more about the story than what was provided in the show. You almost always expect a little bit of difference in between books and shows. There are so many scenes in the first book that are basically lifted, dialogue and everything, and just come alive in the show. That is so cool to watch, like to see an adaptation that is that close. It is a beautiful thing. Now, I have heard that later on in the show, they don't follow the books as closely. And then, of course, the book series isn't finished, so they just made up their own ending, which is fine. While there might be differences between the books and show later on, I would say I have a general idea, a trajectory of where the story goes. And that did make me view some of the scenes in the first book differently. Because the book and the show mirror each other so well, it does kind of feel like I'm re-experiencing the same thing. I'm re-experiencing it with knowledge of what happens in the future. And some of the scenes and some of the characters, like, I just see them differently now. Particularly Lord Baelish. Oh my gosh, some of Lord Baelish's scenes were hard to read because I know so much more about him now. He's a well-written character. I just don't like him. The other thing that really surprised me was how young a lot of the younger cast is. The show definitely cast older actors for a lot of the young characters. I'm not sure that the show was intentionally aging people up, because we do see at one point Sansa says she's 14, even though the actress clearly isn't 14. They do call Daenerys a teenager a couple of times in the show. I don't think it's a problem. I think it works for the show for the most part, and I think it works for the book, obviously, because it was written there first. It does make me view some of the characters in a little bit of a different light, particularly Robb. I know this isn't something that happens in either season 1 or book 1 of the show, but some of Robb's actions later on makes more sense to me, given the fact that he is a teenager. So I've really tried to avoid spoilers while watching the show, and then I'm trying to avoid book spoilers while I'm reading the books. Just anything that's like different between the show and the book, I don't want to know about beforehand. But there was some seemingly foreshadowing. I don't think I explained this well in the video, but there's this part at the end of the first book where Ned is reflecting on things. Specifically, he's reflecting on when Jon was a baby and Ned went to collect Jon, and also just unspecified things that Ned would like to discuss with Jon. And things that happen between them that definitely doesn't happen until very late in the show. So I thought that was like possibly made up for the show. But now I'm wondering if it was actually like set up in the books. I don't know. I'm really curious where that goes, or if it goes anywhere in the books. I don't know what else there is to say. I just loved it. I love this world. I love the characters. It does make me realize that I care a lot less about subgenre, and I care mostly about having a well-written story with good characters. And Game of Thrones delivers on that. A Song of Ice and Fire is everything I want in a story. well, maybe not everything. Maybe it's more in some cases. Like, it is a dark, brutal, violent world. But it's a well-written world. It's a well-written story. Before watching the show, I have seen spoilers about who lives and dies. And I know what happens to these characters, and I still get attached. Not everyone's upstanding. Even characters I like. Characters I like can do terrible things. And characters I don't like can do good things. And some characters I just hate. It makes me feel things. I guess that's part of it. Like, this book, this show, this world, it makes me feel things and it makes me care. I've already started book 2, Clash of Kings. I'm really enjoying it. I'm almost enjoying it more than book 1. I am super excited to continue reading through A Song of Ice and Fire and just experiencing this world for the first time. I will be making more videos and sharing it here with you. I hope you will come along with me on this journey, and I hope to see you in a new video. Happy reading.